There's a man named R.U. Darby. Never heard of him? Neither had anyone else, until Napoleon Hill wrote about the dumbest, most expensive mistake he ever made. Darby's uncle struck gold out west. Actual gold, found the vein, filed the claim, kept it secret from the neighbors, borrowed money for machinery. First few loads came out of the ground and they were rich on paper already. They were already mentally spending it, paying off debts, planning the big house. Then the vein disappeared. Not a trace. They kept drilling, nothing. Drilled some more, nothing. Brought in more effort, more hours, more frustration, and still nothing. Eventually they did what most people do at that exact point. They quit. Sold the machinery to a junk dealer for next to nothing, ate the loss, and went home to tell everyone the mine was a bust. Here's the twist. The junk dealer wasn't dumb. Before he touched a single piece of equipment, he brought in a mining engineer to actually look at the geology. The previous owners didn't understand fault lines. The gold vein hadn't vanished into thin air. It had simply shifted 3 feet. 3 feet from the exact spot where the drilling stopped. 3 feet of dirt between a family going broke and a family becoming millionaires. The junk dealer became one of the wealthiest mine owners in that era. Darby went back home, humiliated, and eventually got into selling insurance. And here's the part I actually love. Every single time a client told him no, every time a deal fell apart, he'd remind himself, I already quit 3 feet from gold once, never again. That mindset alone is what made him one of the most successful insurance salesmen of his time. Decades later, that story is over 100 years old, and it is still happening to you, right now, today, in whatever you're building, your business, your body, your relationship, your degree, your side hustle, your art, whatever it is. So here's what we're doing in the next 20 minutes. I'm going to walk you through 10 signs that you are far closer to a breakthrough than your brain is currently telling you, and why quitting right now, at this exact point, might be the most expensive decision of your entire life. Stick around till the end, because sign number 8 is the one almost nobody talks about, and it's honestly the most important one on this list. Let's get into it. Sign 1. Everything feels harder than it did a month ago. Let's start with the one almost everyone is feeling right now, and misreading completely. Here's the part nobody tells you about progress. It doesn't feel like progress while it's happening. It feels like everything is breaking at once. Your schedule's tighter, your patience is thinner. The small problems that used to roll off your back now feel like personal attacks. And your brain, very unhelpfully, interprets all of that as, this isn't working. Think about a gym analogy for a second, because it maps onto literally everything else in life. Your body does not build muscle on the easy reps. Rep 1, rep 2, rep 3, those are basically a warm-up. Your body builds muscle on rep 11, when your arms are shaking, your form is falling apart a little, and every fiber in your body is begging you to just put the weight down. That shaking isn't a warning sign. That shaking is the growth happening in real time, not before it, not after it, during it. Same thing happens with a business in its first 18 months, a relationship right before it either commits or breaks, a degree right before finals, a book right before you finally figure out the structure. Difficulty is friction, and friction only shows up when something is actually in motion. A car parked in a garage experiences 0 friction. A car doing 80 on the highway experiences plenty. Which one do you think is actually going somewhere? So if your project, your goal, your relationship, whatever it is, feels harder this month than it did last month, I need you to reframe that immediately. That's not you regressing. That's not a sign the thing is falling apart. That's simply what forward motion feels like from the inside, because from the inside, motion and struggle look identical. They only look different from the outside, after the fact, when you can finally see the whole shape of it. If you're exhausted right now because of something you're building, that exhaustion is data, and the data says you're close. Sign 2. You've started doubting the plan itself, not just yourself. Now here's a subtler one, and it's one that trips up genuinely smart, capable people, because it disguises itself as intelligence. Early stage doubt sounds like this. I don't know if I can do this. That's normal. Everyone starts there. But there's a second, later stage of doubt that sounds completely different. I don't know if this even works. Notice the shift. It's no longer about your ability. It's about the entire premise of what you're doing. That second kind of doubt is scarier when you hear it in your own head. But ironically, it's the better sign of the two. Here's why. You cannot doubt a plan you never actually committed to. Nobody lies awake questioning the viability of a business they never started, or a relationship they never really tried in, or a book they never actually sat down to write. This deeper, structural doubt only shows up after you've put in enough real effort that you now have actual skin in the game. It's your brain finally running a cost-benefit analysis on a real investment, instead of an imaginary one. Napoleon Hill talked about this constantly in his research. He interviewed hundreds of successful people for Think and Grow Rich, and one thing kept repeating. The exact moment right before a breakthrough is very often disguised as the moment that feels most like guaranteed failure. Your brain's entire job, evolutionarily, is to protect you from wasting effort and resources. So right before a payoff, right before the vein of gold, your brain panics and tries to pull you out early. It's like a smoke alarm going off the second before the toast pops out golden brown. The alarm isn't wrong that something's happening, it's just terrible at knowing whether that something is danger or dinner. Sign 3. People around you are suddenly giving you realistic advice. Okay, you know this one. Everybody watching this has lived this one. You share your goal with someone, a friend, a parent, a coworker at the office coffee machine, and suddenly this person, who has never once in their adult life attempted anything remotely similar, transforms into a full-blown project risk analyst, complete with statistics, complete with concern in their voice. Have you thought about a backup plan though? I mean, statistically, most of these things fail, don't they? I'm just saying this because I care about you. I don't want to see you get hurt. Here's the translation nobody gives you. Your visible effort is making them uncomfortable with their own visible inaction. It's not always malicious. Most of the time, it's not even conscious. But when someone in your life watches you take real risks toward a real goal, it holds up a mirror to every goal they quietly gave up on years ago. And the easiest way to deal with that discomfort isn't to examine their own choices, it's to talk you out of yours. Misery genuinely loves company, but more specifically, comfort loves company even more. Now, to be fair, not all advice is bad advice. Sometimes people really do see a blind spot you can't see, and dismissing every concern as jealousy is its own trap. But here's the pattern worth watching. Notice when the realism gets louder. If it's spiking right as you're building real momentum, right as things are starting to look plausible instead of hypothetical, that timing is not a coincidence. Discomfort in bystanders often shows up in direct proportion to how close you're actually getting. Sign 4. You keep getting small, almost insulting wins. This one is sneaky because it looks like disappointment when it's actually a green light. Not the big win, not the six-figure deal, not the yes from the dream client, not the viral moment, not the life-changing breakthrough everyone fantasizes about. Just small stuff. Somebody replies to your email after weeks of silence. One tiny client signs on, worth almost nothing financially. A stranger leaves a nice comment on the one post you almost didn't publish because you thought it was mediocre. People quit constantly right here, at this exact stage, because somewhere along the way they were promised a mountain, and what showed up instead was a pebble, a single, unimpressive, forgettable pebble, and it feels like proof that the whole plan is a dead end. But think about how mountains actually form. Nature doesn't build a mountain in one dramatic geological event most of the time. It builds it out of millions of small deposits, compressed slowly, over an unbelievable amount of time, until one day it's a mountain. Every overnight success story you've ever heard, if you actually dig into the timeline, was built out of dozens, sometimes hundreds, of small, boring, completely forgettable wins stacked one on top of the other, until from a distance, they looked like a single dramatic moment. Nobody films the pebbles, everybody films the mountain. So if the wins showing up in your life right now feel small and unimpressive, you are not behind schedule, you are precisely on it. Sign 5. You've stopped telling people about it. This one confuses people because it feels like you're losing steam. You're not. Early on you told everyone. You posted about it, brought it up at dinner, mentioned it to the barista, basically anyone within earshot. Now, you've gone quiet. You barely mention it anymore, even to close friends. Here's the thing. That's not shame, and it's usually not you giving up. That's maturity kicking in. There's a well-documented psychological effect where simply announcing a goal out loud gives your brain a small hit of the same social reward you'd get from actually achieving it. You say, I'm going to run a marathon, or I'm launching this business out loud. People react with excitement and validation, and your brain, which is frankly not that bright about the difference between talking and doing, treats that reaction like a mini reward. Which means talking can quietly become a substitute for doing. So when you notice yourself pulling back from the announcements, from the updates, from the performance of it all, and instead just quietly, privately grinding on the thing, that's usually a sign the goal has become genuinely real to you, instead of being a performance staged for other people's approval. Silence, in this very specific situation, is a sign of depth, not doubt. Sign 6. You're bored of your own excuse. This one's underrated, and honestly, it's one of my favorites on this whole list, because it's so easy to notice, once you know to look for it. At some point, you just get sick of hearing yourself say the same excuse over and over. I don't have time. You've been saying that one for 2 years now, and somewhere along the line, even you stopped believing it. You catch yourself mid-sentence sometimes, saying it out of habit, and internally rolling your own eyes at yourself. That fatigue, that boredom with your own excuse, is actually your subconscious mind quietly renegotiating the terms with you. Hill's entire philosophy in Think and Grow Rich hinges on one central idea: your dominant, repeated thoughts eventually shape your reality, whether they're thoughts of ambition or thoughts of limitation. And you cannot hold a genuine burning desire and a comfortable worn-out excuse in your head at full volume forever. Eventually, one of them wins the argument and quiets the other one down. If your excuse is starting to sound hollow even to your own ears, that's not a small thing. That means the desire is winning. Sign 7. The fear has changed shape. This is a subtle one, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. At the very start of any goal, the fear is simple. What if I fail? What if I try this and it doesn't work and I've wasted my time and my money and my dignity? But somewhere along the way, if you keep going, the fear quietly morphs into something else entirely. What if I actually succeed and it changes everything? What if this actually works and now I have to run a real company instead of a hobby? What if this relationship actually gets serious, and now I have to be vulnerable in ways I've been avoiding for years? What if the book actually sells, and now people are paying attention to what I say? That's a completely different fear, and this is the ironic part. It's actually a really good sign, because you don't develop a fear of the consequences of success unless some part of you has already started to believe success is genuinely plausible. Nobody loses sleep worrying about what they'll do with lottery winnings from a ticket they never bought. The fear of success, weirdly enough, is a backhanded compliment from your own subconscious. Sign 8. You've had at least one moment where you almost quit, but didn't know why you didn't. Okay, this is the one I told you about at the top. This is the big one. There's a specific moment a lot of people have lived through and never talked about, because it's genuinely hard to explain. You were exhausted, discouraged. You had a completely rational, well-thought-out case for quitting, sitting right there in front of you, ready to go. Logically, quitting made total sense in that moment, and you just didn't. You didn't send the resignation, you didn't close the tab, you didn't make the call to cancel. Something in you refused, and to this day, you couldn't fully explain why. Hill called this a burning desire in his work, and he was very specific about distinguishing it from motivation. Motivation is loud, exciting, and, critically, temporary. It's the fireworks on day one. This other thing, the burning desire, operates much quieter, underneath your mood, underneath your logic even, and it's far more stubborn. Motivation is what gets you started on a Monday morning. This unnamed, unexplainable refusal is what actually gets you to the finish line, usually on a day when you had every good reason to stop. If you've had that specific moment, the one where quitting made perfect sense on paper, and you did it anyway, and you still can't fully articulate why, that, out of everything on this entire list, is the strongest signal you're going to get. That's not luck. That's not stubbornness for its own sake. That's the part of you that already knows something the rest of you hasn't figured out yet. Sign 9. You've accidentally become someone else's proof. This is one you almost never notice happening in real time, and you usually only find out about it by accident, months or years later. Somewhere along the way, a stranger, a coworker, a younger sibling, a kid at your gym, someone in your life you barely think about, started quietly watching you. Not in a dramatic, obvious way, just clocking your consistency in the background of their own life. You don't see it happening. There's no notification for it, but people notice effort, even when they never say anything about it. And here's the part that should genuinely change how you think about quitting. The day you give up isn't just a private decision that only affects you, it quietly becomes someone else's permission slip to give up too. Well, if they gave up after trying that hard, why would I even bother? You become, without ever agreeing to it, a data point in someone else's decision-making. Now, to be clear, this isn't about pressuring you to keep going purely for other people's sake, because that's its own kind of unhealthy, but it is proof of something useful. Your consistency has already had a real effect on the world around you that you can't currently see. Which means the effort is already working, on some level, well before the big visible outcome ever shows up. Sign 10. The goal itself has quietly changed. Last one, and this is a good one to end on because it reframes everything that might feel like confusion right now. The thing you're chasing today probably isn't quite the same thing you started chasing. It's evolved, gotten more specific, sharper around the edges. Maybe you started out wanting a successful business, and now you want something far more precise, a specific kind of client, a specific revenue number, a specific way of working that actually fits your life. Maybe you started wanting to get in shape, and now you want a specific number on a specific lift, or to run a specific distance in a specific time. A lot of people panic when this happens. They think, wait, I don't even want the same thing anymore. Does that mean I'm lost? Does that mean I've been wasting my time? No, that's exactly what real progress does. It refines the target as you get closer to it. Think about a satellite on its way to a distant planet. It doesn't make one giant course correction at launch, and then fly in a perfectly straight line for years. It makes thousands of small, increasingly precise corrections the closer it gets to its destination, not bigger ones. The corrections get smaller and more specific as accuracy increases, not the other way around. So if your goal has gotten more precise instead of more vague, You are not lost, you are calibrating. That's what being close actually looks like from the inside. So let's go back to the 3 feet. The only real difference between Darby's uncle and the junk dealer who came after him wasn't luck, it wasn't timing, it definitely wasn't some secret piece of insider knowledge nobody else had access to. It was persistence at the exact same coordinate in the ground, combined with just slightly better information about what was actually happening beneath the surface. One man looked at a dry hole and saw an ending. The other man looked at the exact same dry hole and saw a pause. Now, I want to be fair here. Quitting isn't always the wrong move. Sometimes a thing genuinely isn't working, the fundamentals are broken, and the smart, mature decision really is to walk away and redirect your energy somewhere better. This isn't a video telling you to blindly grind forever on something that's clearly dead. That's a different problem for a different video. But go back through that list one more time in your head. A month that's felt harder than the last one. A doubt that's gotten deeper and more specific instead of shallower. Unsolicited realism from people around you. Wins that feel small and unimpressive. Going quiet about it instead of announcing it. Being bored out of your mind by your own excuse, a fear that's changed shape from failure to success, an unexplainable refusal to quit on a day it would have made perfect sense to, becoming somebody's silent, invisible proof. A goal that's gotten sharper instead of blurrier. That is not the profile of failure. That is, almost point for point, the exact profile of someone standing 3 feet from gold. So before you put the shovel down for good, check the fault line first. Because here's the cruel, beautiful irony of the whole thing. The vein of gold almost never announces itself right before you find it. It doesn't get louder or more obvious. It just goes quiet right before it goes gold. If any part of this hits something in you, you probably already know exactly which one of these 10 applies to you right now. Maybe more than one. So drop it in the comments. Just the number, 1 through 10, or all of them if that's where you're at. And if you've ever quit 3 feet from your own gold, before you found this video, before you knew any of this, I want to hear that story too. Because I guarantee you're not the only one watching this who has one. I'll see you in the next one.